It's so fascinating how the mind is geared to survival, geared to react quickly to high stress, panic situations, the adrenaline pumps, but you don't have an operator's manual on how to navigate the various stages of anxiety and these states that only occur rarely under very high pressure situations. And you don't have a lot of experience with them. Like you see that in street fights where people who don't have training, they have no idea what to do, and you see the walls just close in on them. I'll never forget this. This is a clearly untrained person. We were at the Comedy Store, and the Comedy Store is on Sunset in Hollywood, and there was a fight that was taking place across the street. And there was all these cars that were passing by while I was watching these guys yell at each other and push each other. And then I see this one guy whose eyes are squinting, and he's decided to he's decided to engage in this guy. And I don't know if he's I'm sure he's intoxicated, but they're talking shit and they're pushing, and then all of a sudden I see him literally like closed eyes, like squinting, head up in the air, and he's swinging like with open hands, and then a bus goes in between him and the guy's fighting, and then when the bus passes, he's out cold.
Oh jeez.
He's out cold, and the other guy walks off, and I'm like, wow, like watching that guy panic and watching that guy in a situation where he'd probably never been before, didn't know what to do, had talked himself into this terrible situation where he's an untrained fighter, an untrained guy who's fighting with another person, and this guy's also untrained. They both sucked. But this one guy kept it together slightly more and cracked this dude with a haymaker, I guess. I mean, I don't know, but he was just out cold on the street. Geez. And I remember thinking, wow, anxiety is crazy. It's the heart beating, the adrenaline pumping, and all that stuff. It's like those moments overwhelm people where they can't stay in the moment. And I think what you've done with your Shot IQ course is you've given people not just the tools to be effective at archery, but the tools to understand how to control your mind during high-pressure situations and stay in the moment and do the thing that's difficult to do under those high-pressure situations. And not just want it to be over with quick. You just want it to be over with. And you see that in fights, too, where guys like swing when the guy's nowhere near them. They'll just do stuff because they just want to, and they leave their face exposed, and they throw technique out the window. It's just anxiety. And knowing that these things exist and having like a followable course where you can, this is what's going on in your mind. This is how you control your mind. And you have to talk to yourself. You have to be able to stay in the moment. And the best way to stay in the moment is to actually have words going off in your mind.
And I get the opportunity to talk to psychologist, and I just had one at the house that came for a clinic, and it's funny when you talk to these people because it's hard to find a psychologist that has been there and done the things that we're talking about. And they usually go too deep, so there's a depth that you can't go past because it becomes intangible, right? So when I ask the doctor, like, Doc, am I right when I say this? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's this and this and this and this. I'm like, is that how you teach it? Well, yeah, that's what I talk about. Well, it's too deep, right? It's intangible. When you talk about...
people aren't going to carry it with them in a high-pressure situation.
How do you increase confidence at the moment of truth? How do you get your conscious bubble to get the same size as your self-image bubble? It's all intangible stuff, right? This is what I'm talking about is how do you get it? It's tangible. This is the tool that you need to use. This is why you're using it. And this is what happens, right? And people take instruction and they're looking for the magic pill, right? Like, oh, if I take your course, is this going to fix me? Not if you have that approach, it's not, right? Because I can't teach you determination. I can help you find it, right? Like in SWAT training, a lot of times we have to run 100 meters and shoot 100 meters, standing unsupported, 8-inch steel plate. Doesn't sound that hard, but when you're huffing and puffing, and if you go open loop, you're going to miss. So I remember this one time, one of my snipers he'd run 100 meters, get to where I was, shoot, pow, miss, 20 push-ups, right? 20 push-ups. Run 100 meters, down and back, come up, pow, miss. And I'm like, 20 push-ups. So he does 20 push-ups, comes back, down, pow, miss, 20 push-ups. This time I got down on the ground with him. I said, what's your job? He said, sir, my job is to hit the target. I said, that's not your job. Your job is to move the trigger slow enough you could stop it. That's your job, right? If you do that, there's no way you can miss the target. And so then after that, there was no more misses. But he didn't have his job defined, right? Your job is not to kill the bull elk. Your job is to not even to shoot the shot. Your job is to move your trigger slow enough you could stop it. When you do your job, your actual job, the results take care of themselves. And there's a lot of stuff that we have no control over. You can't control that axis deer jump in your string, right? You can't do that. You have to stay in your job, but you got to have defined what is that? What is the true problem here, right? And I was just like anybody else trying to figure out this shot control thing, but I didn't know what the problem was. Nobody had actually defined the problem. Your subconscious mind will not allow you to cause your body impact as a surprise. That's the problem in shooting in general.
Anticipation.
Yeah, and once we figured that out, now we can start to attack. What sciences do I need to figure out that deal with this stuff? And I was lucky to have the right people in the right places to figure this stuff out, but it's putting it in that package so that you can define your job, and then how do you attack it, right? So
it's such an amazing thing that you've done that I really feel like it should be mandatory. I really do. I think there's so many people that go out into the woods to hunt archery, and they don't know what's going to happen when they pull that trigger the first time. They've never done it before.
Yeah.
So the first time they ever do it, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, if they knew what you're teaching, I really think that the rate of success would go up exponentially, and the rate of bad shots taken would go up as well. That would go down.
Yeah.
I really believe that people would be far more effective.
They're just trying to erase the mystery in it, right?
Yeah.
Like when you shoot your next shot on whatever hunt you're going on or whatever you're doing, you know how it's going to go. There's no mystery to it. You know you're going to draw back and aim. You know that you're going to roll to the click in your hinge. You know you're going to say, here I go. You know you're going to say, pull, pull, pull. There's no mystery to it anymore. Whereas most people, they have mystery in their shot. They don't know how it's going to go. They hope it goes well,